This video is going to be a review of doing multi-digit subtraction. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. I'll start with the original, but then I will give you some other ways to check your work. So let's say I have something like 8,120 minus 792. I want to think in my head of like a ballpark estimate. So if I think of like 8,120 is pretty close to 8,000, and 792 is less than 1,000, but it's in the range of 1,000. 8,000 minus 1,000 is going to be 7,000. So at the end of this, our answer should be somewhere in the ballpark of 7,000. If it's not, something has gone haywire. So I start right away and I have 0 ones and I need to take away 2 ones. Well, I can't take away 2 ones if I have no ones. If you have 0 fingers, you can't take away 2 fingers. So I am going to go next door, like a good neighbor, ask to borrow some sugar. I am going to take this 2, which is really not a 2, it's a 20. And a 20, I'm going to write this. A 20 is equal to 2 tens, which is why it's a 2 in the tens column, but it's also equal to 20 ones. And that's why I'm going to steal one of these tens. I'm going to bring over 10 ones to this column. So now I have 10 minus 2. Well, if I have 10 fingers, I can't take away 2 fingers, then I have 8 fingers left. Now, a common mistake that typically gets made is kids forget that they're now working with the 1 instead of working with the 2. So remember that you are no longer working with this 2. It is a 1. So now your job is to do 1 minus 9. Well, that's another one. If you have 1 finger, you can't put 9 fingers down because you don't have 9 fingers up. So I'm going to go over here, and this 1 is in the hundreds column. So it's 100, which means it's really worth 10 tens. And since I'm supposed to be in the tens column, I need to borrow or regroup one of those tens. So I am going to cross out, instead of having 100, I'm going to have 0 hundreds, but I'm going to move 10 tens over. So now I have 11 tens. 11 tens minus 9 tens is 2. And then lastly, I've got 0, not lastly, but almost lastly, 0 hundreds minus 7 hundreds. Again, if I have 0 fingers up, I can't put 7 fingers down. So I'm going to go to the thousands, and instead of 8 thousands, I'm going to change it to 7 thousands, and I'm going to move 1,000 over, because 1,000 is the same thing as 10 hundreds. So when I move 1,000 over, I end up now with 10 hundreds instead of 0 hundreds. 10 hundreds minus 7 hundreds leaves me 3 hundreds, and then 7 thousands minus no thousands equals 7. So my answer is 7,328. I look back at my ballpark estimate, and hey, that was pretty close. So that's a good sign that I'm right. I typically see 2 issues. One is that kids flip the numbers in their minds to make it work. So they go 0 minus 2, oh, I can't do that. I'll just do 2 minus 0. That does not work. If you go to a store and the price of the item is $20 and you only have $5, you can't just change it in your mind and say, oh, I guess I'll make the price $5 and then I'll pretend like I brought $20. That doesn't work. You can't just switch the numbers. And the second mistake I see is usually caused by bad handwriting. I hate to say it. I hate to call you out. But usually what happens is kids have done their math so messy that they can't remember that they just wrote a 1 and now this is 11 or whatever the example is. I want to do one more with you, and this one involves borrowing across zeros, and it can be a real pain in the bum. So if I'm going to do 3001 minus 2025. So I start right away. 1, take away 5. I only have one finger up. I can't put 5 fingers down. So I'm going to have to borrow. But I go next door, and there's 0 tens there. I can't regroup anything from 0 tens. So this is like knocking on the door to borrow some sugar and nobody's home. So you got to go next door again. I go next door to the hundreds, and there's no hundreds home. So I can't take 100 and turn it into some ones. So I've got to go next door again. And now I'm in the thousands, and there are 3,000. Now, if I got over here and I still couldn't borrow, that would probably mean I set my numbers up wrong. But I'm over here now. I'm in the 3,000. Something I can't do is I can't just run over and stick a 3 over here or a 1 over there, because this is 3,000. So this is like I'm going to go to the bank and I've got to switch my $1,000 bill. I'm going to take one of my thousands and I'm going to cash it in for 10 hundreds. And then I'm going to take one of those hundreds and I'm going to cash it in for 10 $10 bills. And then I'm going to take one of those $10 bills and I'm going to cash it in for 10 $1 bills. So now I have 11 $1 bills. A mistake I typically see is kids are either lazy or they're trying to make a shortcut, and instead of writing out that it's tens, they just move it over as nines, and they don't realize what they're doing. So make sure you take the extra half a second it takes to carry it over as a 10 and then turn it into a 9. So then I have 11 $1 minus 5 gives me 6. 9 minus 2 is 7. 9 minus 0 is 9. And 2 minus 2 is 0, which I can either write this 0 or I don't have to write it, because a 0 in front of a number, in front of a whole number, doesn't change anything. The nice thing about anytime you have to carry across several numbers is that you do it once and then you're good. And you can just go on with the problem like that. If I look back now to do a ballpark estimate, because sometimes you can do them at the end, 3001 is about 3,000. 2025 is about 2,000. If I do 3,000 minus 2,000, I get 1,000. 976, very close to 1,000, so that's a good indication that we have the right answer.